The Last Signal. Year 3847 GST, Galactic Standard Time. The Grand Council chamber of Epsilon Eridani Station hung in the void like a crystalline flower, its translucent petals catching the light of 3 distant suns. Inside, representatives from 47 species gathered for the millennial census, a tradition older than most civilizations present. Council Speaker Vexthera, a being of liquid mercury and consciousness, rippled with authority as she addressed the assembly. We commemorate today those who have fallen silent in the great dark. Let us honor the extinct. The chamber dimmed as holographic images flickered to life, species lost to war, disease, environmental collapse, or simple evolutionary dead ends. When the human designation appeared, a peculiar silence fell. Homo sapiens, Vexthera announced, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 years. Declared extinct, Galactic Year 2847. Cause: self-annihilation through nuclear warfare and ecological devastation. Their final transmission was received from their homeworld, designated Earth, exactly 1 millennium ago today. Ambassador Croton of the Zelthian Empire, a being resembling an upright mantis with bioluminescent patterns, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. A cautionary tale. They possessed remarkable ingenuity but lacked the wisdom to wield it. Their technology was impressive for such a young species, yet they destroyed themselves before achieving even basic stellar colonization. Indeed, added Representative Solara, whose species had evolved from coral-like organisms. Our xenoarchaeologists have studied their ruins. Such potential, wasted on tribal conflicts and resource exploitation. They called their tendency toward self-destruction human nature. As the eulogy continued, none noticed the small anomaly on the station's outer sensors. A ship, unmarked and unknown, approaching through conventional space rather than using standard warp corridors. In the station's operations center, Junior Technician Plix, a 4-armed Quillian, studied the readings with growing confusion. Senior Operator, we have an unscheduled vessel approaching. Configuration unknown. It's not responding to automated hails. Senior Operator Ven, a gaseous being contained within an environmental suit, floated over to examine the data. Run it through the archives. Match against all known designs. Seconds passed. Minutes. The computer churned through millions of ship configurations from across the galaxy. No match, Plix reported, his eye stalks quivering with uncertainty. But there's something odd. The propulsion signature. Its chemical rockets augmented with what appears to be primitive fusion drives. This technology is ancient. Send a security detail to the docking bay, Ven commanded. And notify the Council. We may have Tomb Raiders using salvage technology. The ship completed its docking procedure with surprising precision. The airlock cycled, and 3 figures emerged into the station's gravity field. They walked upright on 2 legs. Bilateral symmetry. For limbs, 2 for locomotion, 2 for manipulation. Soft skin in varying shades of brown. Hair on their heads. The biometric scanners went wild, cross-referencing against the Galactic database. The match came back instantly, flagged in red with a historical designation, extinct Homo sapiens. But these were no ghosts, no holographic echoes. These were living, breathing humans. The leader, a woman with dark skin and gray-streaked hair tied back in a practical knot, stepped forward. She wore a patchwork uniform that looked cobbled together from a dozen different sources. On her shoulder, a patch read ESS Perseverance Mars Colony Authority. "Hello," she said in flawless Galactic Standard, her accent carrying the peculiar melody that language algorithms had preserved from ancient human transmissions. "I'm Captain Maria Okonkwo. I believe we're 1,000 years late for a meeting." The security detail, a mix of species equipped with various weapons systems, stood frozen in confusion. Their training had covered first contact protocols, hostile encounters, even dimensional anomalies. Nobody had prepared them for extinct species walking through an airlock. Captain Okonkwo smiled, a gesture the security team's cultural database identified as a human expression indicating non-hostility, though it could also indicate aggression depending on context. "I understand this must be unexpected. Is the Galactic Council in session? We have quite a story to tell." Within minutes, the Grand Council chamber erupted into controlled chaos. Every species had a different reaction. Some retreated into their environmental suits. Others activated defensive protocols. The Zelthians prepared for potential combat. The crystalline shardlings sang a harmonic of disbelief. Vexthera restored order with a pulse of authority that rippled through every being present. "Impossible. The humans were confirmed extinct. We received their final transmission. We surveyed their homeworld. Nothing survived. Earth? Captain Okonkwo said, and something painful flickered across her face. Yes, Earth died. You're right about that. But humanity didn't exist only on Earth. She gestured to her companions, a younger man with Asian features and cybernetic enhancements along his jaw, and a woman whose pale skin showed the telltale signs of low-gravity adaptation. When the old nations of Earth realized what was coming, they did something desperate and beautiful. They sent us away. Seed ships. Colony vessels. Scattered across the solar system like dandelion seeds on the wind. Her voice carried the weight of inherited grief. Mars, the moons of Jupiter, Saturn's rings, even the asteroids, anywhere we could burrow in and survive. Ambassador Croton leaned forward. The nuclear exchange that destroyed your homeworld was the end of one chapter, Okonkwo interrupted. Not the whole book. We watched Earth burn from our colonies. We mourned. We raged. And then we survived. The younger man spoke up, his voice carrying a metallic undertone from his augmentations. I'm Dr. James Chin, Chief Historian of the Mars Collective. For 1,000 years we've been scattered, rebuilding in the dark. We lost faster-than-light capability with Earth. Lost contact with each other. Each colony thought it might be the last humans alive. The pale woman added, I'm Engineer Sarah Volkov, representing the Titan settlement. We've spent 10 centuries rediscovering ourselves, relearning the technologies Earth took for granted. And most importantly, learning from our mistakes. Solara's coral-like structure pulsed with curiosity. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not remain hidden? Because isolation is what killed Earth, Okonkwo said firmly. Fear, tribalism, the belief that resources were finite and zero-sum. We were alone in our solar system, so we fought over scraps. But the galaxy is vast, and if there's one thing 1,000 years has taught us, it's that survival requires cooperation. She pulled out a data crystal, ancient human technology upgraded with salvaged alien components. We've been listening. For centuries, we picked up fragments of galactic standard transmissions. We learned your languages, studied your cultures. We built this ship from pieces, human engineering, salvaged alien tech from unmanned probes that drifted into our system, and a whole lot of stubborn determination. The human trait, Vexthera observed. Guilty, Okonkwo smiled. We're here to formally request recognition as a surviving species. We're here to share what we've learned from our darkest hour. And we're here to ask if maybe, just maybe, humanity deserves a second chance. The council chamber fell silent. 47 species contemplated the return of a ghost, a species that had survived its own extinction through sheer, impossible stubbornness. Ambassador Croton finally spoke, his mandibles forming what his species considered a thoughtful expression. The Galactic Council has never faced this scenario. A species declared extinct, returning from the void. This will require extensive deliberation. We understand, Okonkwo nodded. We've waited 1,000 years. We can wait a little longer. As she spoke, the sensors detected something else. More ships emerging from the outer system. Not just one vessel, but dozens. Each one different, each one clearly human in origin but adapted to different environments, different colonies, different survival strategies. Humanity hadn't sent one representative. They'd sent themselves, all of them united for the first time in a millennium. The phoenix had risen from the ashes, and the galaxy would never be the same. Echoes of Earth. Day 3 after first contact. The private deliberation chamber was smaller than the Grand Assembly Hall, designed for serious discussion rather than ceremony. Holographic displays filled the air, showing data streams from every corner of explored space. In the center, representatives from the Council's Security Committee gathered around a circular table of living crystal. Ambassador Croton paced, his 6 legs creating a rhythmic clicking against the floor. 3 days. 3 days of humanity broadcasting their presence across every frequency. My intelligence officers report 43 human vessels now in the system. How did we miss an entire species rebuilding for 1,000 years? Director Cal Thor, head of Galactic Intelligence, projected a series of images. The massive being, whose species resembled ambulatory trees, rustled with frustration. Because they were clever. Look at their settlements, buried under Martian regolith, hidden within asteroid cores, camouflaged on Titan's surface beneath methane storms. They used no subspace communications, nothing that could leak into our detection grid. Resourceful, noted Counselor Arwex, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix. But we must ask, why this elaborate deception? Fear, came a voice from the doorway. Captain Okonkwo entered, escorted by 2 guards. She'd been granted limited access to the station while the council deliberated, and she used every moment to understand galactic politics. Croton's mandibles clicked in annoyance. This is a closed session, Captain. Counselor RYX asked a question. I have the answer. Okonkwo moved to the center of the room with the confidence of someone who'd commanded in crisis situations. We hid because we'd already proven we couldn't be trusted with power. Earth destroyed itself because every nation believed it was acting in self-defense, in the protection of its people. We feared that if we revealed ourselves too early, still divided, still wounded, we might repeat the same mistakes on a galactic scale. She activated her own portable holo display, showing images of the colonies. 3 centuries after Earth fell, the Mars settlements fought among themselves. Titan and Europa went to war over water-ice rights. The Belt colonies nearly collapsed into anarchic violence. We had to learn peace not from philosophy but from necessity. In space, division equals death. Ven, the gaseous senior operator who'd first detected their approach, flowed into the chamber. I've analyzed their vessel designs. Fascinating. They've independently developed several technologies we consider standard: magnetic bottle fusion, closed-loop life support, radiation shielding using electromagnetic fields. But their approaches are different, sometimes more elegant than our solutions. Show them the Perseverance's engine core, Okonkwo suggested. The hologram shifted to display the heart of the human flagship. Engineers among the council gasped at what they saw: a hybrid system that combined 3 different propulsion theories, jury-rigged together in ways that shouldn't work according to standard physics, but clearly did. That's impossible, Calthor rumbled. Those energy signatures should create destructive interference. They do, Okonkwo grinned. That's why we use the interference as part of the reaction mass. We call it bootstrapping, making problems solve themselves. When you don't have resources for perfect solutions, you get creative. Dr. Chin appeared in the doorway next, his cybernetic enhancements glinting under the chamber's lights. May I, Captain? At Okonkwo's nod, he continued. Honored council members, I've been studying your historical records. Fascinating reading. I noticed that 42 of the 47 species currently in the council nearly destroyed themselves at some point during their development. The Zelthians had their wars of unification. The Siluran people underwent the Coral Purge. Even the Vexthera collective experienced the fragmentation crisis. He paused, letting the information sink in. Every spacefaring species faces a crucible, a moment when their destructive potential matches their constructive capability. Most species barely survive. 15% don't survive at all. But humanity? We didn't just survive our crucible. We learned from it while it was still burning. Counselor RYX pulsed with interest. Explain. Earth died, yes. But it died slowly enough for us to evacuate millions. Not everyone, his voice caught. Not even close to everyone. But enough. Enough to carry the lessons forward. Our colonies were founded by people who'd watched their homeworld commit suicide. Who'd seen friends, family, entire cultures burn because of fear and tribalism. Chin activated another display, showing a document in dozens of languages, human and alien. This is the Charter of Mars, written 700 years ago. It established the first unified human government since Earth's fall. Look at the first principle. The text translated itself. No human government shall deny the fundamental personhood of any sapient being, regardless of origin, composition, or cognitive architecture. We wrote that centuries before we knew for certain that other sapient species existed, Chin explained. We wrote it because we'd learned the hard way that, us versus them, thinking leads to extinction. If we ever met aliens, we wanted to be ready. Ready to be better than we were. Ambassador Croton stopped pacing. Beautiful words, Dr. Chin. But the Galactic Council deals in deeds. How do we know this isn't elaborate deception? Your species destroyed itself once. What prevents you from bringing that violence to the stars? Engineer Volkov entered, the last of the human delegation. May I address that, Ambassador? She pulled up schematics of the human vessels. These ships represent the combined resources of every human colony. 43 vessels, built over 2 centuries of coordinated effort. Notice anything unusual? Calthor examined the data. No weapons. You have point defense against micrometeorites, but no offensive capabilities whatsoever. Correct, Volkov said firmly. We made a choice. We could spend our limited resources building weapons to defend against theoretical threats, or we could build bridges. We chose bridges. Every kilogram of material, every joule of energy, every hour of labor, we invested in communication, in travel, in peaceful reunion. That's either wisdom or foolishness, RYX observed. Maybe both, Okonkwo admitted. But it's who we've become. We're not the same species that burned Earth. We're what survived the burning. We're what learned from it. She pulled up one final image, a child, human no more than 5 years old, floating in zero gravity aboard one of the colony ships. The child held a tablet showing pictures of Earth in its prime, blue and green and beautiful. This is Maya, 4th-generation Titan-born. She's never breathed unprocessed air. Never felt unfiltered sunlight. Never stood under a sky that wasn't a dome. She's learned to live in an environment that should be instantly lethal to human biology, and she's thriving. Okonkwo's voice grew passionate. Every human child born in the last 1,000 years carries this adaptability. We're not conquerors. We're survivors. We're adapters. We're learners. And we're asking the Galactic Council to let us share what we've learned, and to learn from you in return. The council members exchanged glances, communications flowing through channels both technological and telepathic. Finally, Vexthera herself flowed into the chamber, her liquid mercury form rippling with decision. The full council convenes tomorrow. Captain Okonkwo, you and your delegation will present humanity's case for recognition. But know this, the vote will not be easy. Many fear your kind. Others doubt your reformation. Some simply believe the dead should stay dead. We understand, Okonkwo replied. We're ready. As the humans departed, Croton turned to Vexthera. You're actually considering this. I'm considering the data, she replied. A species that survived 1,000 years of isolation, that rebuilt civilization in the harshest environments imaginable, that voluntarily disarmed itself when approaching the galactic community, this is not the humanity that destroyed Earth. Or, Croton countered, it's the same humanity that's learned to lie better. Tomorrow we find out which, Vexthera said. And the galaxy holds its breath. The trial of ghosts. Recognition vote day. The gallery above the council chamber filled with observers from every corner of the galaxy. News of humanity's return had spread like wildfire through subspace channels, and representatives from species not even on the council had traveled to witness this unprecedented event. In the preparation chamber, Captain Okonkwo reviewed her notes one final time. Dr. Chin adjusted his cybernetic implants, while Engineer Volkov ran diagnostics on their presentation systems. Around them, the other human colony representatives waited. Captain Liu from the Belt Colonies, Commander Adeyemi from the Jupiter Stations, Representative Park from the Saturn Collective, and dozens more. Nervous? Chin asked. Terrified, Okonkwo admitted. We're about to ask the galaxy to forgive us for dying. Not forgive, corrected Elder Nakamura, the oldest human present at 147 years old, kept alive by adapted alien medical technology they'd salvaged and improved. To acknowledge we were more than our worst moment. The chamber doors opened and they filed in. The Grand Council had arranged itself in traditional judgment formation, a hemisphere of seats rising in tiers, with the petitioner standing in the center, exposed from all angles. It was deliberately designed to be intimidating. Vexthera called the session to order. We convene to address the petition of the human remnant for recognition as a surviving species and inclusion in the galactic community. Captain Okonkwo, you may present your case. Okonkwo stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. Esteemed council members, 1,000 years ago, humanity committed the greatest crime a species can commit. We nearly extinguished ourselves. We don't ask you to forget this. We ask you to understand what came after. Holographic displays activated, showing the solar system as it was after Earth's fall. Points of light flickered across Mars, the asteroid belt, the moons of the outer giants. These lights represent human settlements. In the year 2847, when Earth died, approximately 43 million humans survived across our solar system. No centralized government. No unified culture. No faster-than-light communication. We were fragmented, isolated, dying. The display shifted, showing the slow expansion and connection of the settlements over centuries. It would have been easy to surrender, to give up, to accept extinction. But humans have one persistent, possibly annoying quality: we're stubborn. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through some species. We decided that if we were going to die, we'd at least die trying to live. Ambassador Croton interrupted. Captain, the Council is aware of your survival. What we question is your suitability for galactic community. Your own history suggests a tendency toward violence, exploitation, and environmental destruction. Why should we believe you've changed? Because we had no choice but to change, Commander Adeyemi responded, stepping forward. I represent the Jupiter stations. Do you know what happens when violent tribalism erupts in a settlement orbiting Jupiter? Everyone dies. The station loses integrity, everyone dies. A reactor meltdown, everyone dies. We learned cooperation not from ethics classes but from survival imperatives. She pulled up statistics. In the first century after Earth's fall, we lost 11 settlements to internal conflict. 43,000 people, dead because they couldn't work together. The survivors learned. We built new governmental systems based on radical transparency, consensus building, and mutual aid. Because in space your enemy's death often means your own. Representative Park added, we also learned from your species. For centuries, we've intercepted galactic transmissions. We studied your histories, your philosophies, your mistakes. The Zelthian Wars of Unification taught us about the dangers of forced cultural homogeny. The Siluran Coral Purge showed us the cost of environmental negligence. The Vexthera fragmentation crisis demonstrated the importance of maintaining individual identity within collective consciousness. We learned from you, Okonkwo emphasized, before we ever met you. Counselor Solara's choral structure pulsed. You studied us in secret. Some might call this spying. We prefer desperate students, Chin replied. When you believe you might be the last of your kind, you cling to any evidence that intelligence can survive its own adolescence. Your civilizations gave us hope. A new voice boomed through the chamber. But what can you offer us? This came from Ambassador Thorix of the Mechanii Collective, a species of artificial intelligences who'd evolved from ancient computers. Every species in this council contributes to our collective knowledge. What do humans bring besides a cautionary tale? Engineer Volkov stepped forward, her enthusiasm overcoming her nervousness. We bring innovation born from scarcity. Observe. She activated a demonstration device, a small cube that began to glow. This is a Volkovchan converter, named after its independent co-inventors on Titan and Mars. It transforms waste heat directly into electricity with 93% efficiency. Your species use quantum-locked systems that achieve 98%, but require rare elements we don't have. We achieved 93% using iron, silicon, and creative desperation. The cube pulsed with energy. We can't match your perfection, but we can show you how to achieve good enough with a fraction of the resources. Sometimes, elegant solutions come from having no other choice. We also bring cultural diversity, Elder Nakamura spoke, his aged voice carrying the weight of living memory. I was born on Earth. I remember blue skies. I remember oceans. The children of Mars, Titan, Europa, they've never known these things. Yet we've preserved Earth's cultural heritage while building new traditions. We have colonies where people speak languages dead on Earth, practice religions that would have been forgotten, preserve art forms lost in the burning. He played a recording, music, unmistakably human but transformed by new instruments, new acoustic environments. This is a Martian sand symphony, combining ancient Japanese taiko drumming with rhythms created by controlled dust storms and Valles Marineris. This is what happens when culture doesn't just survive, it evolves. Ambassador Croton leaned back. Impressive. But culture and clever engineering don't address the fundamental question. Can you be trusted? Your species weaponized atomic energy, then used those weapons to destroy your own homeworld. You nearly extinguished yourselves through climate manipulation. What prevents you from bringing this destructive tendency to the stars? The chamber fell silent. This was the question, the core issue. Okonkwo took a deep breath. Nothing prevents us, Ambassador. Nothing except choice. She let that hang in the air. Every species here has the capacity for destruction. The Zelthians could deploy their nanite swarms against civilian populations. The Mechanii could weaponize your code against biological species. The Vexthera Collective could infiltrate and control other liquid-based lifeforms. Every species here has existential weapons. She looked around the chamber. What prevents you from using them? Not inability. Choice. Culture. Ethics. The decision that some actions are unthinkable, even if possible. Humanity has made that choice. We've encoded it in our laws, our education, our cultural DNA. The Charter of Mars, now adopted by all human settlements, explicitly forbids the development of weapons of mass destruction. We've made it a crime against humanity, literally, to pursue technologies designed solely for mass killing. Dr. Chen added, we've also implemented radical transparency in our governance. Every human has access to every government decision, every resource allocation, every policy debate. We learned that tyranny grows in shadows. We've eliminated the shadows. Can we prove we'll never fall again? Okonkwo continued. No. No species can make that guarantee. But we can prove we've built systems designed to prevent it. We can prove we've learned. We can prove we're trying. She pulled up one final image, Earth, dead and gray but with something new. Stations in orbit, carefully managed. Terraforming equipment on the surface, working at a glacial pace. We're healing our homeworld. It'll take 10,000 years, maybe more. We'll probably never see forests again, or oceans that aren't carefully constructed. But we're trying to undo what we did. Doesn't that count for something? Vexthera rippled. The council will now deliberate. Humans, please withdraw. As they left, Okonkwo caught Croton's eye. The Zelthian's expression was unreadable, but he offered a small gesture that human cultural databases identified as acknowledgement. Outside, the humans could only wait as the galaxy decided their fate. Divided stars. The humans had been escorted to an observation deck, close enough to see the council chamber but not to hear the deliberations. In the chamber itself, the debate raged with an intensity rarely seen in galactic politics. We're discussing the resurrection of the dead. Ambassador Croton's voice echoed through the space. Every precedent, every protocol says this is impossible. Dead is dead. Extinct is extinct. But they're not extinct, Counselor RYX pulsed with energy. They're standing outside this chamber. We can't will them out of existence because they're inconvenient to our categorization systems. Solara's coral structure darkened with concern. The issue isn't their physical presence. It's what their presence means. If we recognize them, we establish precedent. What happens when the next, extinct species appears? Do we simply trust their reformation story? Humanity had the luxury of 1,000 years hidden in their own solar system. What if the next returnee spent their time building weapons? Director Calthor's massive wooden form creaked as he shifted. My intelligence analysis suggests the humans are genuine in their claims. Their technology, their cultural development, their governmental systems. All consistent with a species that's actually learned from catastrophic failure. But, he paused heavily, I'm also aware that the most dangerous enemies are those who've learned from their mistakes. So we punish success? Demanded Representative Kix of the Harmonic Assembly, a species of energy beings who communicated through light waves. They survived the unsurvivable. They rebuilt civilization in impossible conditions. They've shown remarkable restraint and genuine cultural evolution. Now we hold their past against them when that past already destroyed them once. Ambassador Thorix of the Mechanii Collective processed data streams visible in the air around his crystalline form. Statistical analysis of species recovery patterns suggests humanity's reformation is genuine. However, probability models also indicate a 43% chance of regression to violent tendencies within 500 years of exposure to galactic-level resources and technology. 43%? Croton seized on this. Nearly half. We're debating letting a coin flip determine galactic security. Vexthera flowed to the center of the chamber, her liquid mercury form commanding attention. Let us be honest about what we're really debating. This isn't about humanity's reformation. It's about our fear. The chamber quieted. Every species here nearly destroyed itself, she continued. The Zelthians unified through conquest and genocide. The Siluran people survived the coral purge by destroying 30% of their own ecosystem. My own kind, the Vexthera, achieved collective consciousness by forcibly merging individual minds, an act we now consider abhorrent. We all carry shame. Humanity's sin is not unique, Vexthera said. Their sin is visible. They didn't hide it on some distant colony world or bury it in historical revisions. They carry their homeworld's corpse in their own solar system, a permanent reminder of what they were. That honesty terrifies us because it forces us to confront our own pasts. Counselor RYX brightened with realization. You believe we should admit them. I believe we should judge them on who they are, not who they were, Vexthera replied. But I acknowledge the legitimate security concerns. From the Environmental Observers section, a new voice spoke. Representative Schall of the Preservation Coalition, a species of intelligent plants who rarely participated in political debates, extended a vine tendril. May I propose a compromise? All attention turned to Schall. The Preservation Coalition controlled access to 12 garden worlds and held significant moral authority in the Council. Grant humanity provisional recognition, Schall suggested. Full membership delayed for 100 years. During this time, they participate in council sessions, access trade networks, share technology. But they remain under observation. Any sign of regression to destructive behaviors triggers immediate review and potential expulsion. We've never done provisional membership, Croton objected. We've never had a species return from extinction, Shaw countered. New situations require new solutions. This gives humanity the chance they request while addressing our security concerns. We watch them interact with galactic civilization. If they truly have changed, a century will prove it. If they haven't, we'll know before they gain enough power to be dangerous. Ambassador Ronak of the Void Swimmers, a species that lived in the vacuum of space itself, pulsed agreement through gravitational waves. The proposal has merit. But what restrictions during this probationary period? They maintain their current disarmament, suggested Calthor. No weapons beyond personal defense and meteor screening. All human vessels remain open to inspection. Cultural exchange programs, added Kix. Human students in alien universities, alien observers in human settlements. Transparency in both directions. Technology sharing, though risks calculated, but with rate limitations. They gain access to our databases, but not to military applications or world-breaking innovations. Let them prove they can handle galactic-scale power before granting it. The debate continued, details emerging. Humans would have a voice in council but no vote on military matters. They'd access trade routes but with economic monitors. They'd share their innovations but under collaborative oversight. Finally, Vexthera called for the vote. Provisional recognition for humanity. 100 years. Subject to the restrictions discussed. Those in favor? Lights illuminated across the chamber, species indicating their support through bioluminescence, gravitational pulses, electromagnetic signals, chemical releases, depending on their biology. Those opposed. More lights but fewer. The measure passes 31-16. Humanity is granted provisional recognition. On the observation deck, the humans watched as Vexthera approached to deliver the news personally. Captain Okonkwo, the liquid mercury being flowed with what humans would learn to recognize as satisfaction. Congratulations. Welcome to the galactic community, provisionally. As Vexthera explained the terms, Okonkwo felt emotions warring within her. Relief, gratitude, but also a touch of frustration at the restrictions. She caught herself. That impatience, that desire for full acceptance immediately, was exactly the human tendency that worried the council. We accept, she said firmly. Thank you for this chance. We won't waste it. Dr. Chin grinned. 100 years of probation. Feels like getting detention from the entire galaxy. We've waited 1,000 years, Elder Nakamura said quietly. We can wait one more century. And we can prove ourselves worthy of full membership. As the humans celebrated their provisional acceptance, none of them noticed Ambassador Croton in a private communication booth, speaking with someone far away. They're in, he reported. The council accepted them. I voted against as we discussed, but I was outvoted. The response came in a language unheard in the galactic community for eons. Excellent. Let them integrate. Let them lower their guard. Let them feel safe. When the time comes, humanity will serve our purposes perfectly, just as they did 1,000 years ago. Croton disconnected, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The Zelthian Empire had long memories, and they hadn't forgotten the promising young species they'd been cultivating before Earth's inconvenient self-destruction. Now humanity was back, wounded and grateful, perfect for manipulation. The ghost species had returned, but they weren't the only ones with secrets. The galaxy was about to become far more complicated, and humanity had walked into the center of a conspiracy a millennium in the making. Phoenix rising. The Martian sunrise painted the rust-colored landscape in shades of amber and gold. In the capital dome of New Olympus, Captain Okonkwo reviewed reports from human settlements across the solar system. Provisional recognition had changed everything. Trade ships from a dozen species now made regular runs to human ports. Titan received shipments of rare elements in exchange for their efficient energy converters. The Belt colonies traded refined metals for agricultural technology. Jupiter stations became hubs for exchange between human and alien cultures. But something felt wrong. Captain, Dr. Chen entered her office, his cybernetic enhancements flickering with agitation. We've intercepted something. You need to see this. He pulled up an encrypted transmission, one that human engineers had accidentally decoded while upgrading communication systems with alien technology. The message was old, nearly 1,500 years old. This was sent to Earth, Chin explained. 300 years before the nuclear exchange. Before we were supposed to know other species existed. Okonkwo read the translation, her blood running cold. Project Genesis proceeding as planned. Human aggression parameters confirmed optimal for military applications. Recommend continued covert observation. Their self-destructive tendencies will make them perfect soldiers once properly controlled. Suggest introducing destabilizing technologies to accelerate societal collapse, facilitating easier acquisition of survivors. The message was signed with a Zelthian military designation. They knew, Okonkwo whispered. They knew about us before Earth died. They were watching. Waiting. Chin pulled up more data. I've been cross-referencing human historical records with galactic timelines. Captain, several technologies appeared on Earth with no clear development path. Nuclear weapons, yes, but also certain computer architectures, specific metallurgical processes. What if we didn't develop them? What if they were seeded? To make us more useful, Okonkwo finished. They wanted us to develop weapons technology, to become violent and fragmented so they could, what? Recruit us? Control us? Use us, came a new voice. They turned to find Ambassador Croton standing in the doorway, accompanied by Zelthian security forces. I'm impressed you found that message, Croton said, his mandibles clicking with genuine admiration. We planted it deep in corrupted data streams, gambling you'd never decode ancient Zelthian military ciphers. But humans are resourceful, one of many reasons we wanted you. Okonkwo's hand moved to her communicator, but Croton gestured and it died. Don't bother. We're jamming all communications from this facility. No one knows I'm here. Why? Chin demanded. If you wanted to use humanity, why help Earth destroy itself? We didn't help, Croton corrected. We merely accelerated inevitable processes. Humans were always going to reach that crisis point. We just ensured it happened on our timeline when we could harvest the survivors. Except we didn't let you harvest us, Okonkwo said. We survived without your interference. We rebuilt. Yes, frustratingly independent of you. Croton's tone carried annoyance. When Earth went silent, we assumed you'd all died. Acceptable losses. We moved on to other projects. Imagine our surprise when you showed up, reformed and idealistic, requesting council membership. He moved closer and Okonkwo realized he was alone with them. His security forces were holographic projections. But why tell us this? She asked. Why reveal your conspiracy? Because I'm not who you think I am, Croton said, and his form began to shimmer. The Zelthian ambassador dissolved like a mirage, revealing something else beneath. A human woman, elderly, with cybernetic enhancements far beyond anything Chin possessed. My name is Dr. Sarah Kimura, she said. I was born on Earth, trained as a xenobiologist, and sent on a deep space mission in 2547, 300 years before the fall. We encountered the Zelthians. They captured us, experimented on us, turned us into deep cover agents using technology that reshaped our bodies, our minds. Chin staggered back. You've been impersonating Croton? For 6 months, yes. The real Croton discovered your people had survived and planned to activate his ancient contingency protocols. Subtle manipulation, technology dependencies, slowly turning you into the soldiers his empire wanted. I couldn't let that happen. She pulled up holographic images showing the real Croton, imprisoned in a hidden facility. I've been working against Zelthian intelligence for 400 years, trying to undo the damage they did to Earth. I'm the one who ensured your seed ships escaped. I'm the one who corrupted the Zelthian data on human settlement locations so they couldn't find you. Okonkwo's mind reeled. You're human? But you've been alive for 1400 years? Yes. Zelthian life extension technology. One of the few benefits of my captivity and transformation. Kimura's expression carried centuries of pain. I've watched humanity from afar, hoping you'd survive, praying you'd learn. When you appeared at the council, I knew I had to act. Why not just expose the Zelthian conspiracy? Chin asked. Because it's not just the Zelthians, Kimura said grimly. She pulled up more data, a network of connections spanning the galaxy. The Zelthian Empire has been cultivating species for millennia, identifying those with useful traits, manipulating their development, harvesting the survivors of whatever catastrophes naturally or artificially occur. They've done this to 47 species. The entire council, Okonkwo breathed. Not the council members themselves, they're ignorant. But the intelligence services, certain military factions, corporate interests. There's a shadow network that's been running this operation for thousands of years. Kimura's cybernetic eyes flared. Humanity's value was our aggression combined with creativity. They wanted soldiers who could innovate weapons technology. Other species were valued for different traits, the Mechanii for their processing power, the Siluran for their distributed consciousness, the Vexthera for infiltration abilities. We're all products, Shin said bitterly. We were supposed to be, Kimura corrected. But something unexpected happened with humanity. You actually learned. You actually changed. The network's models predicted you'd either die out completely or emerge from isolation still fractured and violent. Your unification, your genuine cultural evolution, it broke their equations. She smiled. You became the variable that doesn't fit their system. And if humanity can break free of their manipulation, so can other species. You're the proof that their philosophy is wrong, that species aren't just biological resources to be harvested and controlled. Okonkwo paced, thinking. What do we do? If we expose this conspiracy, it could tear the council apart. Species might turn on each other, trying to figure out who's compromised and who isn't. Or, Kimura suggested, we dismantle it from within. I have allies, other long-term captives like me, reformed members of the network who've grown disgusted with what they've done, species who've discovered the truth and want to fight back. We've been waiting for a catalyst, something that would prove the network can be defeated. Humanity, Shin realized. Yes. Your survival, your reformation, your return, it's the proof we needed that the network's philosophy is wrong. Species can change. They can grow. They aren't just resources to be exploited. Kimura extended her hand. I'm asking you to join a war you didn't know existed. To fight an enemy embedded in the very institutions that just granted you provisional recognition. To risk everything you've rebuilt. But if we succeed, we don't just free humanity from manipulation. We free the entire galactic community. Okonkwo looked at Chen, then back at Kimura. She thought of Maya, the child from Titan, representing a future free from the shadows of manipulation. She thought of Earth, dead because species like the Zelthians had nudged humanity toward self-destruction for their own purposes. She took Kimura's hand. We've already come back from extinction once. I suppose we can do it again if necessary. What's your plan? Kimura grinned, looking more human than she had in centuries. We start by waking up the council to what's been done to them. And then? We show the galaxy what humanity does best. We survive, we adapt, and we refuse to be anyone's weapon. Outside, the Martian sun climbed higher, and across human space, a new chapter was beginning. The Phoenix hadn't just risen from ashes, it was about to set the galaxy on fire with truth. The ghost species was about to become the galaxy's conscience, and nothing would ever be the same.